All right, we're live.
We're live.
Welcome to the Thinking About Computers podcast, where we talk about what it's like to think about computers. Our guest today, Alok Tripathy, a fifth-year PhD student here at Berkeley, studying supercomputers and high-performance computing with Kathy Yellick. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
Yeah.
I think Connor mentioned that I was the first guest who had actually listened to some episodes before.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah, sign of growth. Podcast is growing.
Yeah, I'm incredibly surprised. Yeah, but you listen to the podcast or have listened to any amount of the podcast.
Yeah. I've listened to. I don't know if I've listened to an episode like front to back, just because my attention span is destroyed.
Yeah.
With Instagram and TikTok. But yeah, I've listened to like Amisha's, Ale's, Shim's, Parker's, and a few others. Like it's it's interesting stuff. Like it feels like it's a fun time to just like chat with other people in the department.
It is a fun time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, I'm surprised we get any views at all, but it's a good time for us.
There are a lot of views too, right? Like I mean, more than like I had like a podcast in college where it was just like a bunch of guys talking about baseball, and we got like 2 views. So,
yeah, it's certainly more views than I would have expected.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Yeah. You also had a podcast?
I mean, podcast is probably a generous term for it, but it was like, we had it was like some friends in college who were. I'm a big baseball fan, so we would just like talk about fantasy baseball and record it and put it on YouTube. And I think we did this for a summer in 2017. So we had like 1 episode a week for a summer.
Well,
so probably about as many episodes as this right now. And at that point school started and we lost time.
Yeah.
But yeah, we got like maybe a dozen views across all of our videos. So yeah, podcast is a generous term, but it was a fun time. You just like hang out with friends and chat and just record it.
Yeah.
Put it on the internet.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Do you still play fantasy baseball?
I do.
Wait, do you play fantasy baseball?
Yeah.
Or
what
do
else
you
do you do?
Well, I guess it makes sense. Like, I guess when I associated play with like, oh, you play baseball, like you play fantasy baseball, but you play a video game.
Yeah, it's like a video game. Basically.
Okay,
like,
I'm now back on board.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't like play fantasy football, right?
Would you?
I mean, in the same way, like I don't know, you're in a fantasy football league. You're like,
I
don't know.
That too.
Play is a strong word.
Like
play is a strong word.
Do you play gambling? Like, do you play? You play poker?
Yeah.
Play poker. Yeah.
This is true. Okay, never mind. All right.
So, have you ever used a supercomputer to calculate your fantasy baseball roster?
Oh, that's funny. I haven't done that for baseball. I also have a Premier League team, and that one, like, I know nothing about soccer, but I did write like a Python script to do. It was, I think it ended up being like a 0-1 knapsack problem to just like try to, because in fantasy EPL, you have a certain budget of like fake money, and players cost a certain amount, and they got a certain number of fantasy points last year. And so it ends up being, you could use like last year's data to turn this into like a 0-1 knapsack problem. And I wrote a Python script to do that. And I am 5th in my league out of 10 people. So,
pretty good.
Yeah.
Wow.
Over people who actually watch Premier League. So
there you go.
I feel like they need to work on their team a little bit. But yeah. So I haven't done it for baseball yet. But I think it'd be a fun time though.
I mean, the data size, probably you could run it on your laptop, right? The Python script.
With publicly available data, yeah. But
you have a connection?
Well, so I was talking with some people who work for the Giants in analytics, and they were telling me that every baseball game, at least with the data that like a team gets, every baseball game generates 100 gigs of data. Right. So I can't do on my laptop. But
is that just like the video then?
There's video. There's they measure like the joints for each player on the field over the course of the game.
Whoa.
They measure like swing speed. They measure exit velocity. Those numbers are public, but and they can go into like all the private data that they have as a team. But they measure all kinds of things on the field, and it ends up being like 100 gigs. So that I can't do on my laptop.
Yeah.
but maybe on a supercomputer. Yeah, maybe not on the one at LBL. I feel like I'm not allowed to do that. But
what's like the data size that you're approved for that supercomputer?
Oh, it's more that when you log into like Perlmutter at LBL, there's like a big warning message that's like
A warning mess. Warning.
That's fair. That's fair. If I it is a warning. Only a warning. It's mostly so that people don't just like mine Bitcoin with the A100s on taxpayer funded infrastructure.
Yeah.
But
the NSF would want the Giants to win, right?
Yeah, and NSF is secretly a San Francisco Giants fan. Yeah, that's
got SF right in the name.
That's true.
Right.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't think about that. Damn.
Conspiracy. Unlocked.
Yeah. Big baseball, big Giants. Yeah. No, that's cool though.
So how many A100s do you have access to?
At Perlmutter, that's a good question. I haven't used the entire machine. Each node has 4 A100s, and I've used like on the order of like 256 to. Oh no!
Sorry, just even keep going.
I'll stop at 256.
No.
Yeah, I've used like about like 1,000, I think, tops. But that's like a fraction of the machine.
That's incredible.
Yeah, taxpayer funded infrastructure.
Yeah,
that's great.
I have 8 A100s, and I think I'm rich.
Oh, I see. It's like 8 A100s like in Sky, like housed in Sky somewhere.
It's in Bear.
Oh, it's in
one
Bear.
Of Trevor's. Trevor has, I think, like 12 or 16 A100s, but there's only one. Like we split like A100 boxes with some other groups. So there's one like 8 A100 box that's just ours.
Oh, interesting.
And I have access to it, and I feel very honored. But it's like me and like technically maybe 5 other people have access, but in reality, everyone in the group can SSH in.
Yeah. Oh, I see.
But it's still. I feel like most people I talk to in machine learning just don't have any access to an A100, so it's like feels quite great. Even though now I just make a ton of OpenAI calls, so it's a bit lost on me.
Oh, yeah, these days. Yeah. Yeah, I think you can submit like some grant to get like hours on Perlmutter at LBL, and then you can get A100s. I mean, my field is literally supercomputing, so
yeah,
it's like, yeah, advisors do this for like apply for grants on Perlmutter for like a living. So,
what is supercomputing?
No, that's a good question because I feel like it's small in Berkeley. I think there's like 5 students who work in like supercomputing, scientific computing. It's basically like the study of trying to it's kind of like systems research, I guess, but it's focused on mostly performance. Like these days people are focused also on like trying to make it easier to program supercomputers, because right now it's a lot of like MPI C CUDA code that's like only so many people like write that stuff. So there's some focus on that now, but it's mostly like trying to get it's like systems research focused on performance and focused on very high-end infrastructure, basically taking like large computational problems and accelerating them on these high-end systems. So for a long time it was simulations. So the reason like supercomputing and scientific computing are closely related is because for a long time people would run like molecular simulations or climate simulations. I mean, for a long time people still do this. But they'll run these like very computationally intensive tasks on supercomputers, and naturally these things take like days to run. And so a lot of people in my field are focused on like accelerating like numerical linear algebra on these systems, accelerating machine learning on these systems, to get faster performance on these like high-end systems for very large computational problems.
So what counts as a supercomputer? Like, is it one of those like fuzzy terms, or is it pretty concrete?
It's kind of a fuzzy term. So there is like a ranking of like the top 500 supercomputers in the world. And if you're on that list, that's probably a supercomputer, but it's kind of like a marketing term. Like high performance computing means the same thing as supercomputing, really. I prefer the term supercomputing because it sounds more fun than HPC.
It's definitely cooler.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, it's kind of a fuzzy term, but there's a list of like 500 computers in the world that are ranked. And if you're on that list, that's probably a supercomputer.
Which one's the smallest one?
Oh, the smallest one. Oh, that's a good question. I don't actually.
Or like, what's a supercomputer that is categorized as a supercomputer where you're like, I don't know.
That ain't it. Yeah. That's a good question, actually.
The older ones must be less powerful than like modern laptops, right? Or maybe not laptops, but like a modern server with a bunch of A100s.
Yeah, the way these rankings tend to work is you build a computer, it's like the 5th fastest in the world or something, and then you never get higher on that list.
Right.
You start at 5 and then you just kind of go down. So yeah, the bottom of the list is probably like computers that were like really fast 10, 15 years ago. And now they're kind of, they still exist maybe. But that's a good question. I actually don't know what's closer to the bottom of the list. Perlmutter at LBL is in the top. It debuted at 5, I think, in the world, and now I think there have been like a couple that have taken like the first couple spots, and so it's gone a little bit down. It's still top 10, but yeah,
it's like Chatbot Arena.
Yeah, like Chatbot Arena.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, are you familiar with Chatbot Arena? It's just like LLM evaluation.
Yeah, very loosely. It's like ranking LLMs.
Yeah,
right?
it's just like crowdsourced. Like users will give some prompt to random LLMs, will generate the answer, and they'll vote which one is better. And so the leaderboard it's supposed to be like the LLM leaderboard for what people are actually using LLMs for, instead of just like academic made benchmarks.
Yeah, that's interesting because it's like. Yeah, sorry.
But for this ranking for supercomputers, like what is the ranking based on? Like what's the metrics here?
That's a really good question. It's right now because there's some controversy over this. Right now, it's based on LinPack, which is basically like a dense linear algebra tool that just takes like giant dense matrices, multiplies them together, and sees how much like flops per second you're getting. And that's the ranking. The reason it's controversial is that like that's not like maybe 20 years ago that was a realistic problem, like doing dense matrix multiplication. But a lot of problems are sparse, and a lot of problems are like not exactly matrix problems. And so there's some debate over whether like this top 500 list is even like super accurate these days. If like you have a particular problem, maybe there's going to be a computer that's better suited for it than like the top few in the top 500. If it's like a very sparse problem, or if it's a problem that like there's also this green 500, which is the top 500 supercomputers in terms of like energy efficiency. So you might have a problem that's like, where you're constrained by like energy, for instance, and then you might go to like that list, for instance. Top 500 is still probably like the most like marketed benchmark. But yeah, to answer your question, it's the ranking is mostly just giant dense matrix multiplication. See how fast you're getting on that. Rank the computers based on that. Is that a realistic benchmark these days? But it was definitely very like 20 years ago or so. It was like very, I guess, revolutionary is the word. But like very like foundational stuff. Like the guy who developed LinPack, or the main contributor to it, Jack Dongera, won the Turing Award a couple years ago for like that, and like MPI and a couple other things.
Wow.
Is there good drama there? Are people like really, fighting at conferences about which benchmark it should be and what the ranking should be?
Yeah. Like, because there's also, there's a bunch of different rankings for this, and people have their own thoughts and opinions about what's the best one. So there's like the Graph 500, which is the top 500 supercomputers for like breadth first search and like single shortest paths. And some people are like, well, why are we doing like matrix multiplication? Graphs are more important. We should do this list. And then, you get into arguments at like SC or something, the big supercomputing conference. And so there's some debate over that, how to actually rank these things.
And I guess something, so like with Chatbot Arena, we just launched like a category-based leaderboards. So we had like one big leaderboard, which is obviously what everyone goes to, but LLMs are made to do everything. So what if you
Yeah.
want to do coding? Maybe the model lineup changes.
Yeah.
And I guess one of the main takeaways, that there were a ton of interesting takeaways, and you guys should definitely read the blog post when it comes out at some point. But like the top 3 models are always in the top 3. Like there's very few times where you see the ranking change significantly. Is supercomputers kind of similar? Where like, is the top 500 like kind of stable?
The top is definitely it's pretty dynamic. It's changed a lot since like I've started my PhD, I guess. Because there was a big push for there was this big exascale computing project from the Department of Energy, probably Department of Energy, where we were trying to build like a supercomputer that could do an exaflop of computation. And so there was a lot of there were a lot of systems built even just in the past 5 years to try to like push towards this goal. So I think when I started, I think Summit might have been the fastest one, which is at Oak Ridge National Lab. And then since then, there was Perlmutter, which was built like a couple years ago. Frontier, which is also in Oak Ridge National Lab. That's the first like United States exaflop computing system. Fugaku was built in Japan. Like it's changed a lot over the past 5 years, and yeah, it's definitely changed a lot for whatever reason. I don't know. Sorry?
How long does it take to build one?
Depends a lot on the company involved. So Perlmutter was built. They were starting to build it around when I started. So like, less than 5 years ago. Aurora, which is an Intel-based supercomputer, Intel CPUs, Intel GPUs at Argonne National Lab in Illinois. That I think took a lot longer. There's a lot of like, I don't know what the right word for it. People were upset at how long that supercomputer took to build, and even it's still only like I think 50% up. So it really depends on the company that's helping build the system. Like each supercomputer, they contract out some of the work to companies like NVIDIA, AMD, Intel, HP, like what used to be Cray supercomputer. And yeah, like the NVIDIA and AMD machines, they've come up in like time spans of like 4 or 5 years. And the Intel machines have taken a little bit longer, which people are upset about. But so it goes.
Yeah. So how much of supercomputing is hardware versus software?
It's a lot of both. I focus mostly on the software side, like basically trying to like extract as much performance as you can from these systems. So I used to work in my undergrad, I did a lot of like GPU graph analytics, basically trying to implement things like breadth first search or like finding K-cores in graphs or shortest paths on a GPU, trying to get it as fast as possible. So I mostly do like software stuff.
Yeah.
I think the analogy that Jack Dongera, the Turing Award winner a couple years ago, made was like we built this like super fast race car that can go 200 miles an hour. We're trying to actually drive the race car 200 miles an hour instead of like 5 miles an hour for some problems. Like if the peak performance on Perlmutter is, I don't know, however many exaflop or how many flops. It's not exaflop machine, I think. Trying to get as close as possible to that peak performance you can get from that machine. That's mostly what I do. There's a lot of like architecture, especially like domain specific architecture research too going on. So it is both, I think, like custom ASICs and designing like a cluster as well, and focusing on the interconnects between nodes in the cluster, things like that.
How do you feel about cloud computing?
It's actually there's some, that's one of the trends in HPC is getting things to run on the cloud now too, instead of these like giant systems in like Department of Energy facilities, because cloud is definitely much more accessible to people than this machine. Like, so many people at the university can't use Perlmutter, and Perlmutter is right here. So yeah, there's a trend of people trying to get applications to run well in the cloud. The technical limitation was that a lot of times, like I'm sure y'all are familiar with this, but like the network bandwidth between nodes in the cloud was very slow compared to like the interconnects at Perlmutter. So that seems to be getting faster. So there's a lot of people trying to push into doing a lot of HPC applications in the cloud instead, because these are difficult machines to access. And now it seems like you can get decent performance from cloud systems. So it would be better if these things could run in the cloud, I think. Like, yeah, if more people, it feels like the way to like a lot of people who use Perlmutter are like domain scientists, things like people like material scientists or physicists or biologists. And the more people who have access to that kind of compute, the more likely it is we would be able to come up with different scientific discoveries in those fields. So I think being able to run things in the cloud would be a lot better in terms of progressing.
Okay, so there isn't like a rivalry there.
No, it's not a rivalry. I wouldn't say it's a rivalry. Yeah, it's more like some people think it's maybe not quite ready yet, but I think the general trend is, at least from what I've seen, try to get it to run in the cloud, because more people can access the cloud, and that would be better for like both our field and like everyone else if they can access that kind of computing power. Yeah,
nice.
Yeah. So I have a theory that hardware is always worse than software in terms of enjoyment. Like, I feel like every single person I know who works on hardware is less happy than someone who works on software. And I've seen so many people go from hardware to software. I haven't met a single person going from software to hardware. Do you have thoughts on this?
That's fair. I remember that's definitely true for me, that I prefer the software side to the hardware side. I took like a processor design class in undergrad, and that was the hardest class I took. We had to design like a 5-stage pipeline on an FPGA, and like I would pull like all-nighters for this and just still not get it done because Verilog hates me. And it was a really hard time. I prefer working on the software side of things. As finicky as CUDA can be. Verilog, VHDL. That's a different animal. I don't want to do. I respect people who work on that.
Yeah,
to say the least.
I mean, someone's got to suffer.
Someone has to suffer. I'd rather it not be us.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, as long as someone's doing the Lord's work, that's okay.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at.
How much do you end up interacting with the other, like the scientists and those kind of applications that run on supercomputers?
Oh, these days pretty closely. So I have most of what I've done is, these days I do graph neural networks on supercomputers. So I used to do graph analytics on GPUs, and then I don't know, slowly I transitioned. Slowly the machine learning bug hit, and I tried to scale, or I'm working on scaling graph neural networks on supercomputers. And there are a lot of people at LBL who are trying to use graph neural nets for their domain science problems. So right now I have 2 projects going on, one with a few physicists at LBL and one with a few metagenomic biologists. And they both had GNNs for their data sets. The particle physicists, they're trying to use graph neural networks for particle tracking and particle track reconstruction, basically. Given a graph, you're trying to do 0-1 edge classification on the graph. And at the end, essentially, you're trying to do 0-1 edge classification to figure out the paths that particles took. Each vertex is a point that a particle was at, and each edge is a possible path that the particle took. And you're trying to do 0-1 edge classification to figure out the actual path that the particle took in an accelerator. And they're using graph neural nets for this. And yeah, they get a lot of data from CERN in Switzerland. And they were hoping to scale their graph neural net needs. And they saw some paper that I had out like a couple months ago, and they reached out, and so now we're working together to try to scale their graph neural network for particle track reconstruction. And then I'm also working with some biologists. They're doing a similar problem in metagenomics, actually, where they're trying to do 0-1 edge classification on some metagenomic data. That one's a little bit earlier on. But yeah, there's some collaborations between our group and some other folks at LBL. My advisors are jointly affiliated with LBL, so it's kind of natural for these collaborations to happen. That's part of why like the computer science department exists at LBL. It's like for the computing needs of like material scientists, physicists, biologists, people like that at LBL. Like it's the reason that department exists.
That's interesting. Yeah. I feel like I did not interface with a lot of other departments in my own research.
That's one of the things that I like about supercomputing. There's like a lot of it's I wouldn't say easy, but it's there's a lot of like application areas for for a lot of the things that people are working on in the lab. Like even the people who are working on like straight up sparse times dense matrix multiplication, that comes up in a lot of like simulations, that comes up in graph neural networks, and it comes up in a lot of like molecular simulations and like a genome sequencing also uses sparse times sparse matrix multiplication under the hood. So it's like kind of, it's high enough in the stack that I don't have to deal with Verilog, and that makes me happy.
Yeah.
And it's low enough that there's a ton of applications for that kind of like matrix work. So
how much do you end up like needing to understand those applications versus like get to have that as a black box? Like I don't need to know any physics. This is just a graph with edges. Like,
I try to learn as little physics as possible.
Same, man.
Yeah. That's
like everyone with application-based research. So like, okay, just translate the problem for me. Like I can solve it for you if you get it in layman's terms.
Yeah, literally. Just like give me the graph and I'll be fine. Just
I got it.
Yeah, exactly. So there's like a little bit of physics that I had to learn. I mean, not like real, like it was like more high level than like my junior year high school physics class.
Yeah.
But yeah, for the most part, I try to learn enough that it kind of makes sense, but not enough that I have to. If I have to do an integral, then I lost. Like that's not what I'm here for.
Right.
But yeah. Do you work with applications people? You do like vision and language stuff.
Yeah. Not really. I definitely talk to a lot of people in other fields. Like talked a lot with like ecologists. We talked a lot with early in my PhD, I was looking at vision applications for visually impaired. Visually impaired. So we talked a lot with people who are visually impaired. I often talk a lot with people like in like the government because they have very specific use cases for like, oh, we have a camera that looks at this train and we want to make sure that like a different train isn't coming or something. So I get pitched quite a lot of use cases. I can't say I'm the best at actually taking action on those things.
I mean, it's hard as a PhD student.
Yeah, but I'm definitely right now actively trying to get much more involved with the psychology department and the teaching department because I'm working a lot on evaluation for LLMs or like vision language models. And because LLMs or VLMs are basically simulating a person, I think having talked to some psychologists, they have some really interesting ideas on, I don't understand why you're evaluating an LLM like you are a classifier, because this is like much more humanoid. It gives free-form responses. You should really be evaluating this much more like you would evaluate a person. And because it's so person-facing, it's like a lot of how these people are using LLMs is they're like chatting with them. So it's both the humans are the ones directly interacting with it, and it's meant to kind of simulate a human. So I think I've been trying to reach out to people more in like teaching in terms of like, how do you test people and know that like you're actually trying like testing the right information? And then yeah, psychologists on much more of like, yeah, how do you design these benchmarks to figure out like how robust these models are, or things like that. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. That's kind of similar to like what the arena is.
Yeah.
Like somebody has to evaluate the responses from the models, right?
Yeah. So I think that's what a lot of what the arena gets at, and why a lot of people, at least myself, like it, is it's trying to get at the people are the ones who are interfacing with these models. If we just crowdsource like human preferences, like this is what we should be optimizing for rather than correctness, because many of these things don't have like a correct in a way that you could write it down on a benchmark and like use our existing metrics. Yeah, still a lot of improvement for that, but because then it's like, okay, you're going to optimize for user preference, but like you ask two people which answer they prefer for like a creative writing thing, you're likely to get two different answers.
Yeah.
So then there's like even another level of division of
you got to train a model on the user as well, so you can
Right.
categorize the users into
That's-
what preferences they're going to have.
That's kind of the strategy Chatbot Arena has been taking, is just like many layers of LLMs to slowly break down the problem until you get to something useful.
Yeah.
But
I was reading like I subscribed to I think Joey's involved in this, like his Substack or something. Like
Yeah.
like an email.
like the run LLM stuff.
Yes, yeah. And like I think the one today that I was reading was talking about
Vibe-based evaluations.
Yeah, just
yes.
vibes.
Oh my god. Yeah, there was a bit of a so this is my current project, exclusive, is on like vibe-based evaluations. It's called Vibe Check. So it's based around the same idea of like, oftentimes there isn't a like really objective right or wrong. What's right or wrong depends on the user. And a lot of the ways that people figure out sort of the personalities of these models, if you will, is through qualitative evaluation. So instead of providing like a ton of numbers on like, oh, on all these benchmarks, these are how well these models do, I'm focusing on how do you, in an automated way, come up with model A is more friendly in conversation than model B. When you ask questions to model B, it outputs things in a list format, and model A does not. Like more like qualitative properties of models, which I don't know, I find really interesting, because as someone who just looks at model outputs all day, you can pretty reliably get an output and figure out which model it came from just because of like the way it's worded or like the way it's structured. And from talking to a lot of people who use LLMs, the reason how I got Vibe Check is someone was like, oh yeah, why do I use Claude and not GPT? I just ask it a couple of questions to just assess the vibe and figure out if it fits with my vibe. And then that's what I go with.
That's funny. So you got, interesting. So it was like some end user was like, I'm just going off of vibes. And you're like, yeah, that's.
And you're like, yeah, it's all vibes.
It's all vibes. Yeah, LLMs are just vibes.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, I didn't fully read the blog post though, so maybe the blog post said something different for Joey's thing.
Oh, it was talking about vibes based evaluation that stuck with me. Because I was like, because I was wondering like how you evaluate these things, because like in HPC, it's the evaluation is time, just like make it run faster, like it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
Or like make it run faster. Try not to lose accuracy. Like they're very like precise metrics here. And so I was like wondering how you evaluate an LLM, and then I read Joey's blog post today. And it's like vibes. I was like, all right, okay.
Yeah. Vibes and broken metrics.
Yeah.
Is there a clear worst vibe LLM?
Oh, good question.
Worst vibe LLM. So yes. I mean, I guess it depends. I would argue that my current method, like the situation I'm targeting, where one model, like you have two models, they both do like pretty similarly on given metrics. So like there are some that have worse vibes in general just because like they're pretty shit models. So if you have one model that does worse on like every single benchmark, you probably don't want to use it because it like spits out like broken English or just constantly repeats itself. GPT, I don't love its vibe. Its vibe is it is very, very friendly and it is very, very verbose.
Unprofessional.
I see.
Yeah, unprofessional, truly. Like you ask it a coding thing and then it will tell you like a long story of how much it wants to help you in the background of Python. And then it will give you your for loop. And you're like, I just wanted the for loop.
Yeah, I don't need your life story here, GPT.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. No, that's interesting.
Yeah. But
it has helped a lot with my matplotlib code though.
GPT is so good with visualizations. Like Joey was talking about, I don't know if he's given it yet, but he's like, oh, I need to give a lecture on data visualizations. I'm annoyed because they use matplot, and Joey has like a strong vendetta against like matplotlib. Like he just hates it, which is fine. And I'm like, why don't you just make the whole lecture data visualization? Ask GPT. Whatever you like Plotly, it'll give you Plotly. You like matplotlib, it'll give you matplotlib. Just figure out just a list of prompts. Put that on the final. How would you prompt the LLM to get this output?
That's really funny. I mean, it's honestly, making figures used to be the part of the paper that I was dreading the most. Like it would take me so long, and most of it was just like me in front of the computer. Like I don't want to do this right now.
Yep.
And then now it just takes like a half hour. I just like ask ask GPT to just do it for me.
Yeah, matplotlib has a lot of awkwardness.
Yeah. But
I was just thinking though, okay, so if you did have this on the final, I feel like you could actually get pretty reliable testing, because what would happen is you would have some like table of data. You'd be like, I have a data frame. These are my columns. Maybe this is like the first two rows to give you an idea of what this looks like. This is a picture of the plot that I want. Give me the prompt to generate this plot. And then they'll give the prompt. You can automatically make an API call to GPT once you feed it into Gradescope. GPT will generate it. You take the image. You just do image similarity. Like it should be basically the exact same image. And then your image similarity score will then translate to if they got it right or wrong.
Oh, interesting.
Like I really think that you could automate this well.
Huh.
Is that the future of education? Just come up with the prompt and then teachers run it on the back end.
And you can check the code directly as well. You don't need to compare the visual even.
Well, what I'm saying is that what the student would, you could check the code directly. Yeah. I just want to shoehorn images and everything.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But yeah, and I think LLMs will play a large role in education soon. Oh.
How so? You think?
I think like, in the way that like the existence of Wikipedia and the existence of search engines change the kinds of things that you actually like need to know for a job. And like, I guess maybe it's optimistic to say like education will catch up with that and like train people for the right sorts of things, given the reality of what a job looks like now. Like you don't need to memorize things that you can search or memorize syntax that the LLM will always be able to hand to you. But yeah, it feels like what it is that you need to know is changing pretty quickly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right now.
Yeah, now it's in the same way that you don't need to know something that you can just easily Google. You don't need to know something that you can just ask ChatGPT for.
Yeah. Like I wouldn't say like you don't need to know how to write an essay. I mean, maybe someday you won't need to know how to write an essay, but I wouldn't maybe go that far right now.
Yeah.
But like I don't think you need to know like memorize the syntax of Matplotlib. Like you just don't need that anymore. Like
that's just not a skill that is useful now. Yeah. No, it's interesting.
But your research isn't GPT-able, is it?
Nope. It's a lot of it's all graph neural nets right now. No GPT. Yeah, when I started GNNs were like kind of hot. LLMs are like pretty popular too.
Yeah.
And then now it's very like GNNs have gotten like more popular than then, I think.
Yeah.
But LLMs are like all the way up here. Like,
Yeah.
It's changed a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel the FOMO?
A little. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not even in machine learning, so I feel it for sure.
Yeah, that's fair. It's just weird because I didn't think that like in my PhD there'd be like something that like stuck as much as LLMs.
Yeah.
Like it almost feels like, I mean, I don't know, like I was not alive in most of the 90s, but it kind of feels like maybe like the internet and stuff, like, and how like that was growing like really fast in the 90s, and like that obviously stuck around, and like mobile like grew a ton, stuck around. LLMs growing a lot, might probably stick around. Like, I didn't think like one of those things would happen in my PhD.
Yeah. Remember I was talking to my other advisor, Trevor, when we were driving up to Tahoe, and this was when like maybe GPT-4 had just come out. And we were talking about like the impact of LLMs, like how is this going to change what we do in our group or whatever. And I just remember Trevor being like, I mean, listen, I don't think LLMs are like as impactful as people think. And I'm like, oh, like how impactful do you think they are? And he's like, I mean, just like it's like the similar impact that I saw when the internet came around. And I'm like, that's pretty impactful.
Yeah, like I use that every day. Like that's how I get my TikToks. Like that's
exactly.
Like, it's pretty useful.
Yeah,
I think it is fair to say that a lot of people have hyped LLMs to be even larger than that, though. Like they're going to replace all work and like like the like sci-fi like human intelligence stuff. That is a bolder claim, and like it's gonna change the economy and invent TikTok.
Yeah, there's definitely like some hype. And I'm sure there was for the internet in the 90s. I don't know, but I think I remember one moment for me was I was in New Jersey. I'm from New Jersey, and so I was back in New Jersey for a bit, and I was at a coffee shop in like middle of nowhere, New Jersey, and I overhear a couple people talking about Sora. And I'm like, I'm in the middle of nowhere, New Jersey right now. And people are talking about Sora. And also while I was in this coffee shop, for like an hour, like only an hour, but I overhear this conversation about Sora, and somebody I knew from college who I still talk to every so often, mostly about fantasy baseball. He's one of the people I had the podcast with. He reached out, and it wasn't a baseball question. It was about LLMs.
Wow.
And he works for like the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, and he was hoping to use LLM for like giving feedback on stuff. And my first thought was maybe that's a little too important to use LLMs for. But like between the fact that I was in middle of nowhere, New Jersey, hearing people talk about Sora, and B, somebody from college like reached out. Like his question was, how much do you know about AI? And I was like, where is this going? He was trying to use LLMs in his job. I was like, oh wow, maybe this is actually going to stick.
I had that feeling when like I met someone who did they wrote like kind of marketing blog posts, and they're like, like I can now output 10 times as many blog posts. ChatGPT writes like almost all of them like in entirety. Like wow, that's wild.
It's going, it's everywhere now.
I recently realized that my ChatGPT, I knew it was more than the average person, like how often I use ChatGPT, but when I started TAing, it hit me like, wow, y'all don't use this as much as I thought you would. Because people would like come and ask like all these questions, and I controversially was like, oh, I don't really know. We should just ask ChatGPT and then see if like we can figure out if this is the correct answer. And I was like doing it on my computer, and they're like, oh my God, what? Like really? And I'm like, you're college students. How do you not know this?
Like, they all
this would be like my number one, like every single homework is one pass through GPT at least before I submit it. Like,
no, definitely.
But I use ChatGPT. Like, I'm trying to think of the amount of calls I make just casually to ChatGPT, and it's got to be in the minimum like dozens every day.
Really?
Like, I make a lot.
Yeah,
Like,
much more than the average person.
yeah,
these
like
days.
I guess I've completely replaced Google search. But yeah. So I think maybe a lot of the AI people's like, oh, like AI will take over everything. It's already taken over everything. It's just because like we just use it a lot. And it turns out the whole world doesn't actually use ChatGPT
Yeah.
all day, every day.
Definitely nowhere near that level of usage.
Yeah,
I'd say mostly use it for coding.
Mhm.
I was really surprised that like when I work with undergrads, I'll be like, oh, like, are you using Copilot? And they're like, what's that?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Any programmer who doesn't use Copilot, I'm convinced is insane. I mean, maybe for writing custom CUDA kernels, maybe this is a different thing, but
yeah, it's kind of shocking because it makes such a difference.
Yeah.
I should probably use it. I don't actually use it.
Oh my God.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm just a Luddite.
You gotta do it.
I'm sure there's a bunch of companies where it's banned, and like,
yeah,
how are those companies still in business? You know, like,
yeah.
Like
My brother works at Google, and Google banned it, but they have like their own internal something. That's like,
I see. They have like something.
Yeah, they have something. But yeah, it would suck to work at a company that has banned Copilot.
you'd have to learn Matplotlib.
Completely not.
Yeah, I would just quit.
Yeah.
These days, I don't know. It took so long to write just like a single line plot in Matplotlib.
Yeah.
So, how accurate is the Jersey Shore?
Oh my gosh, yes.
God. So I remember the day that show was canceled in New Jersey because everyone was so happy in my high school.
Really?
Like, it was, no one really watched that show because everyone was like, I didn't realize this until I moved from New Jersey that like I think it's a good state. Like, it has perks, but like I leave New Jersey and then I tell people in college, like, oh yeah, I'm from New Jersey. And they're like, wow, I'm sorry. I'm like, what? Like,
it's gotten a very bad rap in the media.
Yeah.
I think part of that is just like once someone makes the joke, you can keep making the joke.
Yeah.
Like Jon Stewart used to make fun of Arby's a lot and then like revealed after years and years that he had never been to an Arby's.
Yeah. Wait, is that why I hate Arby's even though I've never been to it?
Oh, yeah, like that was a
Jon
pretty bad
Stewart.
because like comedians kept knocking it.
Wow.
And then it just permeated into the zeitgeist. We all hate Arby's now. We all hate New Jersey.
Yeah.
I think it's also like a lot of shows. I remember feeling this way when I watched How I Met Your Mother because I think there's like one episode where, or maybe it wasn't even just one episode, but like they just hate on New Jersey in that show. And I'm like, it's fine. Like, what's wrong? Like, I also feel like anytime I meet somebody from New Jersey, they're like there's like a certain amount of pride, I guess, because we all feel the same thing. We tell somebody we're from New Jersey and they're immediately like, man, I'm sorry for you. And we're just like, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine. Just come over. It's
Yeah.
fine. You can come to my place. Like, my mom will make you food. It'll be nice.
I'm sure you get this with Texas as well, right?
Yeah, I do. I think it's a bit different because I feel like the popular opinion of Texas has gotten like very positive over the past few years, or like much more than usual.
Yeah.
Like I used to get a lot of like, oh, so you ride your horse to school, or oh, y'all just like shoot people all the time, right? Because you all have guns or something.
Everyone.
Which, or something about like being really conservative, which was like fine. I mainly just felt sad because I'm like, I'm gonna disappoint these people when they figure out that Austin is just San Francisco in a hotter climate, with more cowboy boots and Texas flags. But now it's like, I don't know, it's kind of hard to describe. Austin has gotten so popular that like I feel a very weird like possessiveness over Austin, because I'm like, damn, now everyone lives in Austin, like everyone loves Austin, and like Austin, like give it back, like
Give it back. It's mine.
yeah, it's mine. was dying to leave it, and I'm not dying to go back, but give it back.
You don't want all these people going to Austin.
Right. Yeah. I just don't want people figuring out that Austin exists,
Yeah.
But I just went back to Austin for the eclipse, and one of the professors that I work with also went to Austin for the eclipse, and he messages me during that weekend and is like, he's one of the people who was like very sad I didn't have a Southern accent. But he messaged me during the weekend and was like, "Oh my gosh, Lisa, everyone here looks and sounds just like you." And I was like, that's a lot. I mean, I don't know if I'm like the world's most stereotypical person from Austin, but he's like, "No, Lisa, I'm telling you, like, I met this tour guide at the Capitol, and like, she is you. Like, she could have been you." And he's like, "Everything about you makes sense. I totally get you as a person."
Yeah, I don't know about how I would feel if someone told me that.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, but definitely the pride thing.
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
can imagine.
lot of Texas
a lot
pride.
of Texas pride.
Do
Yeah,
you wish you had a Texas accent then?
I do.
Because I wish I had a Boston accent.
Yeah.
yeah.
You would be better with a Boston accent.
Thanks. I get that a lot. Yeah.
Hilariously, my mom's from Boston, and my mom does not have a Boston accent, but her siblings have like a pretty strong Boston accent because they've stayed in Boston. They've lived in Boston their whole lives. And I was a little like, when I was younger, I don't know why this happened, but my little brother sounded like he had a Boston accent. I don't think this was obtained by someone who has a Boston accent. I don't know how this came about, but people would often ask, like, "Are you from Boston?" And he was not.
He was not. Did he just do it for the bit?
I have
like,
no
just,
idea.
Like the
No
Boston.
clue.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
The people you grew up with, you grew up in Western Mass, right?
So people, the only people in Western Mass with a Boston accent are people who grew up in Boston. Like my dad's family's from Boston. So like I knew a decent number of people with pretty strong Boston accents, but not the norm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
What about you? Were there a lot of New Jersey accents around?
No Jersey accent. I'm sure it's there. Where I grew up, there's a lot of like there's a big immigrant population, and so not as much like homegrown Jersey accent. Part of me thinks it doesn't even. I don't know. Part of me thinks it might not even exist. Like the version of the Jersey accent on the Jersey Shore, that does not exist. That's just MTV, but or whatever. It was on MTV, right? Or maybe
so.
not.
Yeah, probably.
Probably. That sounds. Yeah.
There's no stereotype in there that's true, or even kind of true.
I mean, water. I say coffee.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know.
None
But
of
like
the hair.
Jersey isn't known for partying. There isn't.
Oh, I
guys
mean,
with a lot of fake tans.
there's some of that. There's some orange people if you go to the shore. That much is true. That I will give to people.
Gym tan laundry.
Gym tan laundry. Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of that. Yeah, a lot of orange people on the shore. Yeah. Oh, and some stuff. I don't know how much Jersey Shore goes into it. There's a lot of like weird Jersey like debates, I guess. Like the existence of Central Jersey is up for debate.
Oh, what side are you on?
Oh, I grew up in Central Jersey, so I think I exist.
Right.
So
You know where they're hiding it.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, like it's one of those things where like Shim is from New Jersey. I remember when I met Shim, we like immediately were like, Central Jersey does exist, pro, con, or like yay, nay. And Shim was like, yeah, pro. I'm like, okay, we can get along now.
What's
Like
the argument that it doesn't exist? It's like you guys are just trying to make your own space.
Yeah, it was just like people from like North or South Jersey just never heard of Central Jersey, and they like grew up thinking I live in South Jersey or I live in North Jersey.
Just went straight from north to south.
Yeah, literally, and like I don't know, I grew up around Princeton, and yeah, we always called ourselves Central New Jersey, and some people just refuse to believe that exists.
What are some parts of Central Jersey I might have heard of?
Princeton, Edison. Edison is also Central New Jersey, which named after the guy, I guess.
Sure.
So
I've heard of Princeton.
Yeah. Princeton. I mean, Jersey is just a lot of small towns. So.
So where's the Jersey Shore? Do people like vacation at the Jersey Shore? Is the Jersey Shore like a place?
Yeah, it is a place. It's just like all the beaches down like like the Atlantic coastline in Jersey. So it is a place. It is a place. And people go there. Like people from New York go there. People from New Jersey go there.
So it's like
people,
a vacation spot.
Yeah. And it's where like Atlantic City is. So
I see.
if you wanna hop over to Jersey and come play some poker, we can go to Atlantic City.
Nice.
And,
Yeah, I've never been. I
nice.
hear. Have you been to Reno?
Nevada? No, I don't know.
Okay, because I'd be curious how it compares to Atlantic City, because Reno, I'd say, feels like if Las Vegas was like abandoned for like decades. And I've heard Atlantic City is like a trashier Vegas.
It is a trashier Vegas. Yeah,
but like I really enjoy
in a good way.
Yeah, I like a town like that. Yeah,
nice. Okay. Yeah, we should go. We should play some poker. We still have to play poker.
Yeah,
have to make that happen. Yeah, I got very into poker lately.
Oh, really?
And I want to play with Connor because he obviously knows a ton about poker.
Champ.
Yeah, and it'll probably just end up being me Venmoing Connor with a lot of extra steps in between.
Right.
But
it's a long Venmo. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. But I would learn a lot, I think. So still have to make that happen. But yeah, Jersey Shore, it's a real place. It's a fun place too. There's a lot of good beaches there.
Would you ever move back to the East Coast?
I think, yeah. I like the New York City area in general. Like, I think I'm more of a city person, and I really like the Bay Area too. So, and family's in Jersey, so it would make sense to go back, I think. Yeah, the one thing, I don't miss the snow. I like being able to just drive through the snow, have it be there, and just go back.
Right.
And yeah, like I like not having to think about the weather any time of day. Like I just go outside, I'm like, oh, it's another day in paradise. Like it's just nice all the time. That part I don't miss. Or I don't miss the snow. Yeah. That's for sure.
You lived in Atlanta, right?
Yes. To undergrad at Georgia Tech.
How do you compare Georgia to New Jersey and California?
Oh, to New Jersey. Well, to California, I definitely I like how connected. I'm a numbtot. I like how connected. Numbtot is like train. I like trains. I like public infrastructure for transit. So Atlanta's very spread out. Yeah. So the good thing about Georgia Tech is it's straight in the middle of Midtown Atlanta. So like if you want to stay on campus, that's great. Like you do you. And I did that for a number of years. But like senior year, you want to go out into the city, you can just walk across the street and you're in Midtown Atlanta, which is nice. The problem is if you want to go anywhere else, you need a car. And I did not have a car. Versus here, I can take the BART, I can take Muni, I can take AC Transit for free. I do have the Bay Pass, so I guess I can take BART for free, which is nice. But yeah, it's much more connected around here, I think, compared to Atlanta. So I very much prefer that about the Bay Area, I think. And there's more baseball teams around here. There's just the Braves over there, but now I can go to 2 games
for now.
Yeah.
Is there news happening?
Yeah, the Oakland A's are moving to Las Vegas.
Yeah,
they haven't already moved. What are they moving?
No, I think they're here for one more year, like playing, and then they're going to a temporary location while they build the stadium in Vegas.
Yeah, they moved to West Sacramento for the next few years, in like a minor league field. That whole situation's really sad.
Yeah, I really like going to A's games.
Yeah, it's
and like
nice.
People talk shit about the Coliseum. I really like the Coliseum.
It's a nice place. Yeah.
What's happening at the Coliseum now? Like, what's it gonna get?
I don't know. I mean, they do like concerts there, but
so it'll just be an event venue. Probably.
Yeah. I think like Bad Bunny was there a couple years ago. It'd be like kind of like that. But yeah, I don't know. It's a nice place. One of the good things is, I mean, not many people go to A's games, but which is, pros and cons. The pro being, if there's a foul ball that goes to your section, you're the only one there. That's yours. Like, you don't have to fight with anybody. Like, there's no line for food. Like, it's they're pros to having few people go to A's games.
Yeah, tickets are cheap.
Tickets are cheap. Yeah, like $10, like even less than that sometimes. Like, it's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in Seattle before this, and like similar vibe. Like the Mariners were not very good. Tickets were cheap. It's a much newer stadium, but like is a very casual experience compared to like, I don't know, like growing up, I went to like Red Sox games or like Yankee Stadium as well. It's like, packed and very intense.
Expensive. Yeah. Like very, very intense. Yeah. It's not like a casual baseball environment in Yankee Stadium or Fenway, I assume. Yeah.
Yeah. But you go to a Mariners game and like half the fans are in the other team's jersey.
Yeah, that happens in Oakland too. I mean, I'm sure you've seen. Like, I remember I went to an Angels A's game
Mhm.
last year. It was the first game of the season, and yeah, lot. It was like half LA Angels fans. Otani was pitching too that day, so that probably helped a lot.
Mhm.
But yeah, and it was also right after the World Baseball Classic, just like the World Cup for baseball.
Mhm.
And there's a lot of like, because Shohei Otani's Japanese, there's a lot of like Japanese World Baseball Classic gear in the stands. So which was
Yeah.
which was pretty cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Pitch.
Mm.
You familiar with like Moneyball?
Yes.
Okay.
Very.
So this is gonna be not at all related. But
No, I want to hear it.
like in the idea of like you want to win, how do you use your resources? I'm sure it would be intimidating if the other team came out to their home, like their stadium, and they see most of the people are wearing the other team's colors. So hear me out. You have a lot of extra t-shirts in the stadium, free tees, free t-shirts. I'm sure a lot of people's loyalties could be bought cheaply. And then you just get everyone wearing the other team's shirt. I feel like it'd work out pretty well.
You can get in the players' heads that way. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people. I mean, baseball is like a very casual. Like people just go there. They don't even like care about the teams very much. So if you give them a free T-shirt,
Right.
you just bought their loyalty.
Yeah. So
That'd
I'm
be funny.
thinking that I'm excited for the psychological manipulation era of
Yeah.
baseball.
Psychological. Yeah.
Yeah. On a crowd level.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You should have bought the A's.
I should have. Yeah. I probably could have on my grad student salary if they're not that desirable.
Yeah, they're not that expensive. Maybe a little bit more than a grad student salary.
Yeah.
But they're not that expensive these days. Yeah, they didn't explore that in Moneyball. Maybe they should have. Yeah.
Yeah, they
I mean,
should have.
yeah, it was early work, you know.
Yeah.
So
Really, yeah.
I do find that part interesting though. Like when you look at sports analytics, they often are studying like how to maximize win percentage or maximize like your chance of winning the World Series or whatever. But like there are a lot of other factors one might try and maximize, like like money that the team earns, for example, which is like may or may not be particularly correlated to like your number of wins in the regular season or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, no one's like writing books or blog posts about how to maximize your like how much merchandise fans are going to buy using sabermetrics or whatever.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Maybe teams have that internally. There's a lot of like, there's definitely like a lot of like, I guess, side effects to trying to optimize for wins. Like baseball is running into this with pitcher injuries because like the sabermetrics and the analytics say you should throw like as fast as you can. Like and like fastball velocities have gone up like it used to be like 95 miles an hour was a fast fastball. And now it's like 95 is average, 100 is fast.
Wow.
And now there's a whole string of like every other guy is like tearing their UCL. And that's probably a big factor to that. So yeah. Sorry, that just reminded me of that. Like there's like a lot of focus on like optimizing for like wins and runs and like winning games.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like side effects that people are like just now realizing with like injuries and I'm sure like monetary value too.
Yeah, like if optimal play is really boring to watch, well, like then you don't have a business.
Yeah,
like,
that's also the thing.
How do you calculate the trade-off of like, should I do like a like a backflip before I catch the ball? Like it's going to decrease my probability of catching it, but it's going to increase like fan enjoyment. And, like, things like that.
I think there's some merit to the claim. I think I remember Ben Reck tweeted this once. He tweets a lot of things, I guess. But he did say one thing, and it's not just him, but there's some sentiment that like analytics have made baseball a much more boring game to watch. I think there's some merit to that. Like, I don't know. Watching a game where everyone either strikes out or hits a home run, that's not super enjoyable. So I think there's some merit to that.
Counter argument. Baseball's never been fun to watch. But now that you've been like, oh, it's all a numbers game now. People have an excuse to say like, oh, now it is not fun to watch, so now I will stop watching it. And it's not because I'm not American. It's just because I, like the average common man, hates numbers in the system.
Yeah, no, that's fair. It's always been
patriotic and hate numbers.
Right.
Like a true American.
Yeah.
Hates math.
Yeah. Well, because I made this argument to Joey today because he was sending me this like vibe-based evaluation blog. And he was like, yeah, it seems like everyone's everyone's on this vibe-based evaluation train. Like, I don't know why I didn't notice this sooner. Like, is this just something that everyone knew but me?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I was trying to find a right way to word it of like, I think that I am just dumber. Like, I think that like really hardcore academics just like they really like numbers and they really like view this as like something that really needs to be quantified. But like your average non-technical user isn't really going to care about numbers as much as like vibes of like, why is it talking to me so much? And so I was like, maybe I just fall for like more on the spectrum of non-technical than you.
I mean, I think it's fair though. Like, I think this came up in my calls a little bit. And Joey was on my committee. And like, I was talking about all these like, oh yeah, I'm getting like this speed up, this like blah, blah, blah. And he was like, oh, and how many, I was like, oh, I got like this speed up per epoch. And he was like, oh, how many epochs are you running this for? And I was like, I don't know, like 200, 300. And he was like, okay, so in practice, like I can wait like 10 more minutes or something. Like I don't know, it was nice that he because I think especially in academia, and especially at least I can only speak for myself, but like especially in like what I've experienced in academia, it's like easy to just like focus on the metrics and be like, oh, my thing is 2 times faster than yours, like it's better. And then it's nice to kind of contextualize this in the big picture, where like in HPC at least it would be something like, oh yeah, yours is 2 times faster, but like it's like 5 seconds over 2.5 seconds. That's not crazy. Like I can wait. Like my entire field is just, if people were just more patient, my entire field would just not exist.
Like a large part of systems just wouldn't exist.
Yeah, that's true actually.
Yeah, I in general like find latency arguments kind of uncompelling for that reason. Like it's like the extra millisecond is not even perceivable to like the end user, and like I know it's more about kind of like being within some threshold that is perceivable or whatever. Like it's like UI questions, but like if you can translate those same sorts of efficiency gains to like dollar savings, I find it way more compelling, which like I'm sure for a lot of your stuff you can. Like these supercomputers are very expensive. Being able to run more jobs on them means like you're spending less NSF money per scientific discovery or whatever, right?
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought about that. Most papers don't talk about it in terms of monetary savings. Maybe because it's like different for each system, and there's a lot of other factors than like time that goes into monetary stuff. I mean, I'm sure you know more about this than I do, I can see how that's much more compelling to like save money than like save a millisecond. Like I can wait a millisecond. If I save like a couple bucks, that's a couple bucks I've saved.
And cloud stuff, it's I think maybe more popular to talk about that because it's on demand resources. So it's like I can buy one less VM. That's like money in my pocket right now, not like I get to apply for an X grant a year later, like some whatever. It's much more immediate.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
What is that called? It's like the experiment where they it's the idea that losing something is much worse than like gaining something. I guess you're losing time and you're losing money though in both situations. But I guess it's like the time is going to keep going. Like I don't know, actually.
It's some like Danny Kahneman thinking fast and slow experiment though. R.I.P.
It was
it
was like they have like you have a mug and in one group they have a mug and they were asked how much would you sell this mug for, and the other group they asked how much you buy it for, and it was like they would sell it for like twice the price or something.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Oh yeah, I guess that makes sense. Like psychologically, it feels worse to like lose something than to gain something. Yeah.
I love that stuff. I think like behavioral economics is so fun. It was like, really too bad to see that so little of it was reproducible, or like to be hit by the reproducibility crisis. Maybe that explains why so many of the results were so surprising.
Yeah. When do you think theoretical databases is going to be hit by the reproducibility crisis?
Yeah, it's well, like if Terry Tao has his way and they like start lean proving all of mathematics, I'm sure they're going to start finding some things that don't hold up. I mean, it might be quite a few years away.
Yeah.
But
interesting. I guess I don't know much about like the theory behind databases. I always just kind of assumed that it was easier in like theoretical stuff because the reproducibility is like somebody reads the proof, and if it makes sense, then it makes sense. But
it probably is like I'd say results that like are really heavily used with like a lot of citations that have been around for a while. I'm sure like many people have read that proof and like convinced themselves of it.
Oh, I see.
But like I don't know, something that was just published last year or was published a long time ago, but like hasn't been built on top of, maybe only the reviewer read that and like was tired that day or whatever. I mean, like, so I think it varies. I'm sure there's published stuff out there that is like, I don't know, just wrong or like missing details or whatever. But we'll see. I think the like formalizing mathematics and theorem prover stuff it'll be very interesting to see how it goes.
Yeah.
But,
no, that makes sense actually. Yeah. I guess that's closer to what Amish works on, like formal methods, improving stuff.
Yeah.
All right, another question that someone asked during lunch today, which was, in which department do you think professors work the least or are the least stressed?
Oh, that's a good question. Don't talk to professors in other departments very much.
You could just go off vibes.
Oh, it's vibes. I do feel like my advisor Aiden is just like a genuinely happy person.
Really?
But he's primarily at LBL. Like he has a joint appointment with the university, and he's like he does research at LBL, and his campus appointment is he gets to co-advise students and like teach one course a year that he teaches with 2 other faculty. Nice. So I'm like, this feels like the move.
Yeah.
Like it feels like he figured it out. But that's a unique scenario. I'm trying to think of other departments.
There was a study that like math professors have one of the highest job satisfaction rates of like any profession,
really?
Which makes a lot of sense. I feel
this is what we settled on.
Yeah, you don't end up a math professor by happenstance. Like you're probably really, really into math.
Oh, it's like there's a bit of like selection bias there. Yeah.
So like you have to be like super addicted, I think.
Yeah.
Like
you're a math professor because you really like math.
Yeah.
And you're a professor in math, you're gonna have a good time.
Yeah. Maybe that's true in other fields. I don't know. Maybe like philosophy professors are having a great time. But I feel like maybe not. Yeah,
I feel like philosophy professors have got to be on the lowest.
Really?
I'm convinced anyone who's really into philosophy is depressed.
Oh, really?
This I think that's compelling. I
got a reason for this. Believe you. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever I think of my low moments, it's a lot of reflection. It's a lot of existentialism, and then it's a lot of reading philosophy.
Oh, I see. Yeah, and philosophers just talk or think about existentialism.
Yeah, I know. I'm convinced philosophers are out of their mind. Like lovingly, maybe I'm sure, like, I have no doubt that they're incredibly smart and introspective, but I would not pick them for the Little Miss Sunshine Award.
Yeah, for the happy-go-lucky kind of people award. Yeah, maybe not.
We should have some philosophers on.
We should
see what's going on with them.
Yeah, we need to find a philosophy PhD student.
Yeah,
I keep meaning to meet one.
I've
never met one.
No.
Maybe marine biologists are happy. That feels like the kind of thing where like you like marine mammals, and so you just kind of go into that and you have a good time. I don't know.
I feel like a lot of like little kids would say they want to be a marine biologist. Like,
I'm wondering whether it like, probably it translates pretty well. Like like you end up happy as a marine biologist. Like it kind of lives up to the hype.
Yeah,
maybe
you're just like high-fiving dolphins all day long.
That sounds great. I would love to do that. There are no dolphins in LBL. Like, it would be great.
I do not see a single dolphin in my day-to-day life. It's so sad.
I know, it truly is. Or just like any fish. Like,
we should get a beta fish for the lab. Be fun, a little class pet.
A little class pet. Everyone gets turns feeding it.
Yeah, no one will do it. It'll die.
Don't do it. Poor fish.
Yeah. But like, I feel like English professors would not be very happy because I think most of their job would end up being reading undergrad's shitty English essays.
All right, these days undergrad shitty ChatGPT.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Just reading a lot of ChatGPT. Honestly, I should be going to English professors to understand LLMs.
Yeah, that's fair. They probably see it a ton.
So, like, I love when the essays are written by Llama. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
That's my favorite LLM as an English teacher. That's pretty good. Oh man.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of other departments.
I'm wondering if astronomy is, because I guess astronomy is similar to, in the sense that like kids sometimes grow up wanting to be astronomers.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's also a lot of just like looking at the sky, and I'm assuming things don't change there very much. I don't know.
Yeah, I think how I envision astronomers to be is it's a lot of nothing. Like looking at the sky, nothing's changed. From what I understand, there's a fair amount of isolation.
Yeah.
And I think that there is a certain type of person where this is like ideal. Yeah. Like there are some people I've met where I'm like, you are so consistent in life, just like straight line. You're like, I've always entropy's at 0. And I feel like they would really enjoy that sort of setup.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I wish I was one of those people.
Yeah, I am not either. What did people at the lunch? Wait, so people arrived at math.
Okay, so someone said business.
Interesting. Yeah.
Because they were like, oh, business students just don't seem that stressed. And then I was saying, well, yeah, like, because business is fake. And they didn't buy that argument. But then, we thought physics for a second, but then we're like someone said, oh, physics, because you know that your experiments are almost definitely going to fail. Like, you're not really going to do much. So, like, the pressure's kind of off.
Oh, interesting.
And then someone was like, well, then why stop at physics? You just go pure math. And then we settled on, if you're a math professor, like, you're probably chilling. Someone was saying, like, there was some Fields medalist that says he works 3 hours a day. And I feel like Einstein's schedule was also like pretty chill, like midday nap.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah.
Both of those dudes from Princeton.
Oh,
shout out to New Jersey.
That's true. Yeah, Jersey pride.
They were probably going to the Jersey Shore getting spray tan.
Yeah.
Albert Einstein was actually orange, believe it or not.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I remember hearing that like the optimal work schedule if you're a mathematician is to work like 4 hours a day or something. Yeah. That's how long you can use your brain for something like that. I don't know if that's true. That's just something I saw on the internet. So
I saw it in a book even, so slightly more legitimate.
Oh, that is more legitimate. But yeah. And I guess if Fields medalists are doing it, then there's probably some merit to it.
Yeah. I do think ecologists are probably also kind of like pretty high up on the satisfaction rate because when I was doing ecology work, like a lot of ecology work is just like camping in like exotic places
nice.
to like observe the animals.
Yeah.
And as a PhD student or an undergraduate, it can be really frustrating because you're like, we have no funding, we're broke, I'm going to be broke forever. And I think that could cause some amount of stress. But if you've reached the professor level, you've probably like said your piece with this.
Yeah,
you're like,
I would hope so.
Yeah. You're like, money is always going to be rough to come by, but I get to camp and look at cool animals all day with my friends
for a job. Yeah,
for a job,
paid to do that.
Right? Exactly. Yeah. Like,
you don't need to go to the zoo. Your job is just
right.
Yeah, that's fair. That is a good point.
You can just consult at Jurassic Park on the side, or go steal artifacts like Indiana Jones. Like, you got options.
Yeah.
Fun thing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
that must be a good time.
All right. Well, we're at an hour and a half.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to talk about? I guess we didn't get that much into your personal PhD experience.
Oh, yeah. It's been good. It's I mean, let me think. It's been definitely it's changed a lot over the past 5 years.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it was like I was telling Connor, I guess, before we started filming, like I in my first year had like a I guess I tried to treat it more like a 9 to 5 sort of a thing. And I had a very, very structured routine. And then COVID hit, and it was much easier to keep that routine because there's nothing else going on.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, I think I wanted to also take advantage of the fact that like I'm in grad school, I can do things at like 2 p.m. sometimes. And to some extent, I might have gone too far on the other side of the spectrum.
Okay.
But I think like it's changed in that I am trying to take more advantage of the fact that I'm like still in like a college environment. And like I took that poker class. Like I went to Jamaica for Jam Coders. I took a month off to go. And it's like that's not something you could do if you have a job. So I think it's changed in that like I don't know, trying to find a balance between like having a routine where like I definitely enjoy having some routine. Like I don't like it when things are like too chaotic. Trying to find a balance between that and taking advantage of the fact that like there's some benefit to having a lack of structure in grad school. Trying to find that balance, I think, is something that has changed over the course of my PhD. But yeah, yeah, I think that's one thing that's changed a lot over the past 5 years.
How would you rate the different years? Like rank the 5 years of the PhD?
Ooh, that's a good question. Well, COVID was tough.
Sure.
Yeah, so maybe that's close to the bottom. Now it's pretty good. And I think first year, yeah, let me think. So COVID was 2020, so that was like mostly second year. So second year was tough. Second year, there's a lot of like, I'm just kind of in my room.
Yeah.
And I go outside for like a half-hour walk just to make sure I go outside. And that was not, optimal. So second year was tough. Third year, I don't even remember what I did third year. Third year was kind of a blur. Fourth year was really good because fourth year I was in Jamaica for the summer, and that was yeah, time of my life.
Wow,
like it was incredible. Yeah, that was a very perspective changing experience. So fourth year is probably fourth or fifth is probably number one because of Jamaica and because of I don't know, things are going well now. Like I'm about to graduate at some point.
Yeah.
In like December. So it's nice to kind of it's I guess bittersweet to be at the end. Knowing that like I don't know, at some point I'll move. Who knows where? Maybe New York. Maybe I'll stay here. Maybe I'll move to Austin. I'll be
Jamaica?
one of those people. Or more Jamaica. Yeah.
What was so life changing about Jamaica?
I think it was perspective changing in I don't know, maybe this is just me personally, but it was a different outlook on like I think I got like a different outlook on life. Like before I think I was focused on like obviously doing well professionally, and I still care about that. And traveling, having cool hobbies, that sort of stuff. And I don't think like the perspective I have now is like super unique. I think people get to this point at some point in their lives, probably earlier than me. But like one of the things that I like most about Jamaica was the fact that there were kids who came who like were not very confident in themselves academically. Like for whatever circumstances that they had growing up. And they came to the camp and they were worried that they would get they would, not do super well. I guess for context, the camp is a computer science intro to coding camp. So it starts from print hello world in Python and ends with breadth first search. So ton of stuff just compressed in a month.
Yeah.
And some kids came in, they weren't super confident that they would do well in this camp. And then we'd work with those kids, and they might not end up being the best student, but they were far from the worst. They were middle of the pack. They were doing well. Far better than what they thought they would, than how they thought they would do when they entered the camp. And I remember one kid was like this. One kid I worked with was like this, and he didn't want to be a computer scientist. He wanted to be an influencer. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I'll follow you on TikTok.
Right.
And he kind of said this sheepishly. He was like, oh, I don't want to disappoint him and tell him I don't want to go into computer science. And I remember feeling that way when I was his age. I would tell my social studies professor, or my social studies teacher, oh, I'm not actually trying to be a historian or something. But he was one of those kids who was much more confident in himself by the academically by the end of the camp. And I was like, I don't care what you do at this point. The fact that you have more self-esteem, more confidence in yourself, that's what matters. And I think after that experience, I don't know, I think I've arrived at people should do whatever it is that they want to do in life, and do what they can to help other people. I think I just care less about traveling to all these places that I might not even want to travel to. I just feel I should, because I should get the most out of life or whatever.
Yeah.
Or having hobbies that are, I don't know, that seem cool. Poker is really cool. I really like poker, to be clear. But I think it's just a different perspective on what feels matters in life, because of that experience. So fourth year is definitely up there for me, I think, because of that.
Nice. Wow. Something for us to look forward to. It's sort of third years right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a good time.
I'm ready to change my life, change my perspective.
Yeah, in your fourth and fifth year. That's where, what year are you? Fourth year?
Third.
Or third year. Okay. Yeah. Fourth and fifth year. That's when everything changes.
Wow.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Usually I have more senior students telling me that it gets worse. I feel
Oh, really?
Especially my first year. People are like, how are you liking the PhD? It's awesome. It's so fun. And they're like,
Hate those people.
only goes down.
It only goes down. I mean, you hit, I feel the roadblocks that you hit are mostly in your second and third year. That's when you you get a paper rejected and you're like, oh, dang, I guess not everything is going to be sunshine and rainbows. So I feel once you hit second or third year, you see what the PhD is like. And then your expectations are more grounded, I think. And then from there you realize oh, I'm here to learn, I'm here to do good research. And then you focus on that. I feel it gets better in your fourth and fifth year. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much.
Of course. Thanks for having me. I had a good time.
Yeah, this is great.
Yeah. Our first fan of the pod.
First fan of the pod. Yeah.
Amazing.
Sign of growth. The podcast is growing.
Yeah. Just, gonna hit that 1 mil any day now.
Yeah. I mean, between this and the TikTok, you're on track to being CS grad student influencers.
Wow. Exactly where I want to be.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.